Gilets Jaunes, or yellow vests, refers to the neon vests that all French drivers must keep in their vehicles for breakdown emergencies. But now it's come to symbolize a protest movement, frustrated with French President Emmanuel Macron, who they say is disconnected from the day-to-day economic difficulties suffered by workers and retirees like Robert Tichy.
Il y en a marre parce que si vous voulez, il y a trop de taxes dans ce pays, trop d'impôts. On est dirigé par quasiment, j'appellerais aujourd'hui de la vermine qui nous dirige. C'est malheureux.
The Gilets Jaunes represent the most serious threat yet to Macron's agenda and his presidency. The movement started off in response to Macron's proposal to raise the fuel tax, but now its target is much broader. Protesters are seeking to reverse Macron's repeal of much of the wealth tax, and many want the president to resign.
The grassroots Gilets Jaunes protest movement surfaced in October 2018, following President Macron's proposal to raise fuel taxes to reduce pollution. It began in rural communities, where people depend on cars to make a living, such as Serkan, a private hire driver.
Ça a un impact que maintenant, le prix du gasoil a augmenté. C'est pas rentable pour nous, quoi. C'est ça le gros problème.
The Gilets Jaunes movement is strongest in small cities and towns outside of France's big metropolitan areas. Wages there tend to be low, and French taxes are high. In fact, the OECD recently said that France is the most taxed economy out of all of its member countries.
By mid-November, more than 250,000 people took part in Gilets Jaunes protests, and in Paris in December, such events had descended into rioting. The movement, which mobilizes through social media platforms, has largely rebuffed the government's appeals to negotiate, discouraging representatives from sitting down with officials. Its appeal has now broadened too, becoming a rallying cry against the government and what protesters call a president of the rich. Paris residents like Rabah Mondes say people have had enough.
Tous les politiques qui touchent des sommes importantes, mais pour le peuple, il reste que des miettes.
The Gilets Jaunes call President Macron president of the rich for a number of reasons, but the most important is his decision to repeal much of France's wealth tax. It doesn't help that Macron, a former investment banker, is himself a wealthy man.
The Gilets Jaunes have already succeeded to some extent after President Macron delayed his proposed fuel tax hike. And while some protesters, such as Laura Cordonnier, are optimistic,
on espère que ça va faire bouger les choses. On espère.
Others, like Benjamin Vrignot, take a different view about rising costs.
De toute façon, ça va déclencher une guerre civile. Et moi, comme la plupart des citoyens qui sont là, je pense qu'on est tous prêts.